So Scotland won't be heading to the World Cup next summer, meaning there'll be no Buckfast on the streets of Moscow, with Gordon Strachan's side failing to beat Slovenia in their final qualifying game, drawing 2-2 as they fail to secure their place in the playoffs. It'll be another summer without a major tournament for the Scots, and manager Gordon Strachan reckons he's worked out why the Tartan Army were unable to get the crucial win they needed: genetics, with Scotland unable to cope with the sizeable Slovenia side. After the game, Strachan said, "Genetically we are behind. In the last campaign we were the second smallest apart from Spain. Maybe we get big women and men together and see what we can do." So while Scotland try and shag their way to Euro 2020, let's take a look at 8 more of the worst excuses in football. And no, we aren't going to include Arsene Wenger's favourite catchphrase, "I didn't say it." First up, we've got grey kits. Back in 1996, Sir Alex Ferguson's Manchester United side headed to the south coast to take on the red and white of Southampton, meaning the Red Devils would have to wear an away kit. The champions ran out in a less than fetching grey shirt. Well, at half time, the score was 3-0 to the Saints, with Letizia and co running rampant at the Dell. As the players emerged for the second half, Man United had changed kits, now wearing blue, with the game ending 3-1 to Southampton. Afterwards, Sir Alex Ferguson stated the players couldn't pick each other out in the grey kit, so they changed. Either it was a load of rubbish or Jose Mourinho fancies having a fallback excuse this season, as the club's new third kit is the elusive grey colour. Speaking of Mourinho, next up we've got Ball Boys. The special one was certainly a bit of a troublemaker during his time at the Bernabeu, and that certainly came out when Real Madrid met Barcelona in El Clasico. In August 2011, Los Blancos were beaten by Barca at the Nou Camp, and after the game, Mourinho said, "What I'm about to say is not a criticism, I'm just stating a fact. There were no ball boys in the second half, which is something typical of a small teams when experiencing difficulties." That's it, Jose. Get a mad excuse in, slag off the team that beat you, and walk away. Next up, we've got loss of balance. Luis Suarez is a fairly interesting cat who loves to sink his teeth into human flesh. Each to their own, I guess, but Suarez keeps doing it on a football pitch, with his most recent chomp coming at the 2014 World Cup as Uruguay took on Italy, where the Barcelona striker clearly took a fancy to the shoulder of Giorgio Chiellini. In an attempt to avoid a ban, Suarez looked to cover his tracks, stating that it was merely an accident, and I quote, "I lost my balance, making my body unstable and falling on top of my opponent. At that moment I hit my face against the player, leaving a small bruise on my cheek and a strong pain in my teeth." A pretty bad excuse, but fair play to Suarez for trying to pull a fast one. Up next we've got the Police, and no, not the band with Sting and the Lads. In February 2015, Leeds United beat Millwall 1-0 at Ellen Road, much to the anger of manager Ian Holloway, who had a perfectly good reason why his side lost: the police. Only 200 Millwall fans had been allowed to make the journey to Yorkshire by the police, much to the anger of Holloway, who felt his side's fans were treated unfairly, thus costing his Millwall side the game. The manager said, "We couldn't get the volume of noise from our fans that we got in our last game. Who knows, when we had momentum in the second half, that might have got us a goal and the point we deserved." Who knows indeed, Ian, but it probably didn't matter too much. Up next we've got the Crystals. If you don't know who the Crystals are, they're the cheerleaders at Selhurst Park cheering on Crystal Palace, like cheerleaders do. Back in 2011, the Eagles were languishing in the Championship, and rather than blame their faltering team, some fans pointed the finger at the girls with the pom-poms, claiming that they put everyone off the game, with one fan saying, "You see the players eyeing them up when they should be focused on the game. The sooner they go, the better." Well, they didn't go, and Palace won promotion 2 years later. Next up, we've got balls that were too bouncy. No, you didn't mishear me. Once upon a time, the football was apparently too bouncy. The year was 1998, and Kenny Dalglish's Newcastle side were almost embarrassed in the FA Cup, drawing 1-1 with non-league Stevenage. And why did they fail to win? Well, according to King Kenny, the balls were too bouncy. Where do you even begin with that? Well, obviously they reduced the pressure in the balls for the replay, as the Magpies beat Stevenage 2-1 at St James's Park. Our next excuse is Michael Jackson. Former Fulham owner Mohamed Al Fayed was an interesting character. To prove that, in April 2011, the former Harrods owner unveiled a statue outside of Craven Cottage of the King of Pop, Michael Jackson, whom Al Fayed had been a friend of. Obviously the fans weren't too happy with the new piece of furniture outside the stadium, and neither was new owner Shahid Khan, who took over the club from Al Fayed in July 2013. Months into his ownership, Khan removed the statue from the ground, and the club were relegated from the Premier League that season. Was that because they didn't play well enough and had about 1 million managers in one season? No, it was because the statue was lucky according to Mr. Al-Fayed. And finally, we've got the PlayStation. With the release of FIFA 18, I'm sure a lot of you have spent a fair bit of time this past week playing on your PlayStation or whatever your console of choice is, but has it had an impact on your career? Well, it did for David James, who blamed his poor run of form during the 90s on playing too much Tomb Raider and Tekken 2. The eccentric headstopper was certainly deserving of his nickname Calamity James, but if blaming Lara Croft makes him feel better about it, then fine. But whose fault was it for that ridiculous mustard haircut then? So those are 8 of the worst excuses used in football. Let us know the worst you've heard or you've used yourself in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe.